The next speaker is Monty Goddard, and he's got minutes donated by Mary Goddard. Is she in the room? And Joseph Morabito.
I want to thank my wife and Joseph for donating your time. I had everything I've got written here, I've already provided you guys on multiple occasions. I've been talking to you about this since Major Z passed. I started in December 2000. I'm Monty Goddard. I'm speaking as a private citizen. I had prepared text. I'm going to go off topic a little bit. For those who've been around for a while, we had a Measure M that was put on the ballot back in early 2000 to provide more firemen and more police officers for that then unincorporated area that was Wildomar, and it went on up to, I can prove it, went on up to La Cresta. That measure failed. That was the first time my radar went up. When I bought my house in June of 1998, Winsong Park was closed. And it was fenced and gated and secured. It was this ugly looking field that had an old jungle gym set up in it and a half-court basketball court. I've got photos of that because I took photos as my house was being constructed. I actually moved in December of '98. A couple years later is when that Measure M was put, and it failed at the ballot at the election. Then I saw the notification that the park was going to reopen. Bob Buster had come up with funds to buy out the Ortega Trail. I started getting concerned about that. I was assured that, and I actually went to meetings over at the library before that park opened to ask how they were going to secure it at night, with the fact that we didn't have enough police officers at the time. I was assured we were going to have private patrols, everything was going to be wonderful, quote unquote, once we became the city. That didn't happen. As a result, when the county operated it, I went to public meetings before the county, before we voted. There were public meetings, workshops, before we voted for incorporation. I went there primarily because I could not get a police officer out of Winsong Park at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I have been accused of sitting up in my bedroom at night watching that park 24/7. That is not the case. I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning when there's people out there partying in the park, and it wakes me up from a sound sleep, and I can't go back to sleep. That's what I've been trying to address for the last 3 years. I'm going to read you one more time. I read to you before. This is a letter from one of my neighbors who could not make it here, but was here at the sub-park committee and spoke. And this was published in the Press Enterprise prior to the vote on Measure Z. I understand the desire to support Measure Z and have family-friendly parks in Wildomar. The problem is the inability to police our parks. We live across the street from one of the parks that closed. When we moved in, we thought it would be great to have that lot transformed into a park. Several years later, that came to fruition. Then the problem started. There was drug use, littering, vandalism to our property, a break into our garage, loud music, fights, and more. The police don't have the personnel to respond in a timely way. Since the park closed, there's been peace. I know we hate looking at a fenced-off park and dead grass, but it beats the alternative. Now keep in mind, when this gentleman wrote this, he was talking about when we had 2 cops on at night. Now we have 1 cop on at night. So the nightmare that we experienced when it was last open is going to be much worse this time around. I'm also asked, why did I buy a house next to a park? You're as stupid as the guy that buys a house underneath the flight path of an airport. I bought that park based on growing up in the poorer part of, bought that house next to the park based on growing up in the poorer part of Riverside. I had in-laws the entire time I was going from 2nd grade to high school that lived on a park in the poorer part of town. The house oriented almost identical the way mine is oriented. They didn't have the problems. What's the difference? Riverside has a police department. What's the difference in that Watts community in Los Angeles? Los Angeles has a police department. Wildomar doesn't. All of the city council meetings I come to, many times, there's talks about people running stop signs, speeding down my street. Let's put humps in the street. Let's put stop signs. Let's light up our stop signs with strobe lights and flashing lights. Let's make a brighter light down there at Donald Brown Elementary than the one that's already there. What is the root cause of this problem? The root cause is we don't have enough police. So just like we do street bumps and we do stop signs, we need to keep that fence up. Now, I agree that's an ugly fence. It was salvaged from the dog park over here at Regency. I actually had a call from Paula Willette in January, not long before she departed the city, where she said, Monty, don't be in a panic. We're taking that fence down tomorrow, in the next couple of days. We're taking it back to the dog park. We're putting up new fabric, heavy gauge fabric that should have been there. That call took place. I'm not lying. She departed. That never happened. I was shocked about 3 months ago to learn that this was a topic of discussion, whether that fence would stay up or down. I thought it was going down. I was very, very dismayed. I got activated. One of the things that I've done, and I got to mention it, Captain Kennedy Smith is here today. I got an education on what a call for service is. When you put up that bar chart of these were the calls, I can tell you this, if every person in this room calls that there's a disturbance in that park at 11 o'clock at night, and then we all call again at 2 o'clock in the morning because the deputy has not been able to get there, and we all make the call again, and at 2:30 the people in the park leave and the deputy shows up at 3:30. Unless one of you have asked for him to give you a call once he's responded, that's not a call for service. That is not up there. I couldn't believe those numbers when I saw them. I personally, in a month, would call more than that. I called 3 or 4 times a night because no one would show up. You guys have to understand that. I don't like a fence either. My desire, and when I bought that house, it was based on experience of living around parks in a community that had a sufficient law enforcement staffing to police the parks. If Wildomar could police that park, I would be totally on board with having that fence come down. But you can't. You guys spend a lot of time tonight talking about signage at crosswalks to try and slow people down. Maybe we can park an empty police car there. You saw one where a highway patrolman was parked there. We don't have highway patrolmen. We got 1 deputy on duty at night, 2 on duty in the daytime. You guys have to take some measures to mitigate the fact that we don't have sufficient law. And I'm not yelling at you guys about that. I know we don't have the money. I know everyone. Last year when Tim Walker took the gavel as mayor, he stated his #1 priority was improving the level of law enforcement in Wildomar. I know you guys want to do that. Until we can, you have to take some measure that protects the people around those parks. Mr. Laskin, like most of the people that signed his petition, don't live around that park. The people who do, I've talked to them. I've talked to 23 of them. 22 of them on a fence. One of the things that wasn't mentioned in the city manager's status report, but was, I think, covered in emails to you guys, and certainly was at the subcommittee, was there's a big concern, which I wasn't aware of by the folks that I talked to, not only the ones that live next to the park, but other people who stroll by and I talked to, about young children running out of that park onto Prairie, which is another drag street in Wildomar. They go down to Gearson and they blow that stop sign by my house, 50%. Joseph could come with his camera and recreate the video. He took it to farm at the corner of Gearson and Prairie. I'm pleading with you people to leave some sort of mitigating measure in place. I've given you options. You've got them. I sent them to you. I call it the Buick, the Chevrolet, and the Cadillac. It's what I used to do when I was at work and had to make tough resource decisions. Something like that has got to happen. You just can't drop the fence and say, oh, everything looks wonderful now. We don't have a problem. That's not the case. I took almost all 9 minutes. I appreciate your time, and man, I'm glad I don't have your jobs.
The next speaker is Ken Mays. All the speakers I have, but you have various emails and letters that you received. Council comments.
Well, can we go down the list and start at the top of the list of what we're doing here? Because I know this is just the fence part, but there was other parts to this deal that we're talking about. The opening on the certain days and all those kind of things. Can we go through that?
Sure.
Do
you need staff input on that or council input?
Would you suggest April 12th?
Well, my concern, here, I'll just put my concern right up front. Everybody keeps asking me, when are the freaking parks gonna open? They're sick of waiting. I don't have a problem with Marna opening, and I think that's what we talked about before, is fencing off the grassed area that we're gonna do grass. The basketball courts are finished, the bark is around the play equipment, we need to get that open right away, and the bathrooms and all that stuff. That shouldn't wait any longer, my personal opinion, because we're paying the money and we want to see them open.
I agree with you.
My grandkids going to another city to go play in the park, and we can't open yet. So, I mean, I think that we should just fence the fields, because that's going to be the next issue that we're going to have to deal with. But the rest of the park should be open, because now it's all, I mean, it looks nice and it's ready to go, and kids are waiting, chomping at the bit to get over the fence to play basketball every day. I see them out there.
Yeah.
And Windsong's the same thing. I mean, we need to get open. I don't know what we were planning on doing. Are we planning on putting grass in the center section again, or what is that?
Yeah, the
What
center
was
section
plan?
is scoped for grass, so the kids have somewhat of a play area
Right.
in there.
So how can we get that open?
Well, open up the gates, and then when we hydro seed it, we'll just stake it off with the string.
And hopefully they'll stay off of it.
They'll stay off of it. That's the soft opening that we're talking about.
Right, I just think we should get those, at least Marna should come open right away and
Pull that forward.
with the,
I think you might need something more than just string to.
well, yeah, we might be able to do, and you could get the rolled out, we could get the roll out orange
Barbed wire.
fencing, you know, that orange cheap
It's
fencing. that
illegal in
they put
California.
around.
Wes told me that the other day.
Anything to get it open and not wait the full time until it gets all, starts growing again. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, what are we gonna do with the park, with the hydro seed, because we are in a water issue.
That's 3.7.
Oh, is that down the
We're on
road?
3.6.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, I thought that was part of this presentation. This presentation you just showed us on the park update and reopening.
I was given some of the concepts. If we hydro seed, it would take about 2 months before we can play on the hydro seed.
Right.
It was just kind of an
Okay, so we can talk about that on the next one.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to your first thing. So how soon, realistically, Gary? 1 week, 2 weeks, March 1st? To
Marna?
pull the gates back and get the rest of the stuff open?
Yeah, we're all set. The drip lines are in, all the bark is there, tree stakes are up. Yeah, it should be, and we can do it within 2 weeks. Or
We need
sooner.
to get them open.
To roll the fences back.
Right, to roll the
Right.
fence
Open up
back,
the
not to
parking lot,
use.
have the
Right.
snack bar
Exactly.
area, the
Exactly.
Kids play area.
gazebos, the kids play
Absolutely.
area,
Basketball
basketball
courts.
courts, and then we will just fence off the play fields. All ball fields will be shut down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned with, just getting it open so kids can go in there play. It's the same thing at the dog park. I mean, everybody's waiting to go inside the thing, and we still have it
Well,
closed.
the dog park is-
No, I mean, but there's play areas in there.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, what were we gonna do over, I mean,
So by the end of the month?
Yeah, Heritage is the one that's lagging because of the amount of weeds that were there. We didn't
Right.
finish all that. Daniel's, I believe, has all the weeds removed now. Dog park was an issue, so we got that taken care of, cleaned up. We're still doing some rehab on it, but that's a separate item. The
Okay.
basketball courts and gazebos, I can check with Daniel and see what stage they're in. And then Marna, our Windsong, it's, as far as I know, it's ready to go. It's just a matter of the turf area.
They
That's,
cleaned it all up today and had a dumpster out there. Looks like they're getting ready to fill it up.
yeah, we're gonna scrape the bark off. The residual bark is gonna go from that park up to Heritage. So we're bringing a container out to put that in, and then we'll take it up there.
So you'll let us know in like an actual date, so within 2 weeks, but you'll let us know the actual date so we can actually
Sure.
tell
That's,
the residents?
yeah.
Okay.
under
then-
3.6, is that gonna be the fence thing, the fence issue?
Well, we're still back to the April 12th for the ACA and actually,
Yeah,
The
April
soft play.
12th, we talked about
Oh, yeah, that's good.
having the dedication, the reopening dedication, the recognitions, but having, in the front end of that, in the morning, having the Easter, having the egg hunt there at Marna, and then about noon, having the reopening ceremonies.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah, all the openings sound good. I just want to get the other ones open.
On April 12th.
The front
Okay.
areas of these things so we can start using them.
Mhm.
okay, next one then. Is the fence?
Yeah, we had security in the past, and Measure Z was designed to accommodate those costs in the future. So we had always planned to have security.
Right.
Costs as part of this. So we had the option, I mean, how much security do we want?
Well, you said that they serviced each park 3 times a night.
Correct.
Is there specific times, or they just rotate and kind of,
I don't know what specific times.
I mean, as long as they're spread out enough to.
They wanted to rotate, actually, not.
Yeah, it's never be in a set pattern, that's correct.
At the Parks meeting, we mentioned we increased it to 5 times.
Increased it to 5 times, and then John Lloyd was mentioning about this wanding thing. You walk
Right.
by with your card,
That's how it
you
used to
swipe
be.
it, and then we know what times they walk by.
Right.
We're actually doing that.
So it was accountability, so they just did drive by that.
Right, exactly. Right.
That's actually how they were doing it before.
Very common with security companies when I do it. It's an RIDF tag, and they have to put looks like the butt of their flashlight to it. And that tells the supervisor that they went to those spots. We could get that report back, and that way we would know. Yeah,
Right.
someone was out there 5 times to do that. There's actually a press enterprise.
Cameras too, I think.
Well, yeah, another thing I've looked at, Gary's looked at, the League of Cities meetings we've gone to, there's some great camera packages out there now where we could buy one camera, same idea you had, and float it around. And doing that with the Measure Z money is essential when you talk about openings back up, to have some level of, hey, there's someone watching when you go to break something, or when you're in there partying or whatever, so we can try and get some license plate numbers. And these devices are very capable of picking those types of things up. It's something we just needs to go on a 15-foot pole, and then it's pretty much vandalism proof, and it's out of the way, but it's visible, so people know that if you're at the wrong time, we're going to be watching, and we're going to find out, and it can be monitored by staff. That you can actually pay to have it monitored. There's all sorts of levels to that, but none of them egregiously expensive. Gary, we're looking at them, and usually Gary turns right around from that stuff because it's too expensive, but usually it is good.
No, we wanted to do that out of the parks, is put those cameras on there.
Yeah.
And that's an excellent use of money and servicing. Mhm.
You know, one thing as we talk about private security versus police, the city of Riverside today or yesterday actually, they're actually starting the process of using as many 13 of Riverside's 58 parks to have a hired security patrol. In the past, they've always relied on their police department for that. They've always asked the police to go out and service their parks, and they're using private security. Okay, and they're moving that direction because it's cost effective, and they see a need to monitor more often, just like Bridget was saying. And I think that's something we can definitely support, and it definitely gives us a better option as far as just, leaving it status quo, obviously. But I think it's a great way to do it, and I think we maybe need more. What's the real cost? If we have someone there that's 5 times a night, well, we're almost close to, I think the guy could just rotate between all 3 parks all night. And how far away are we from that? Maybe that's not something we need forever. Maybe that's just a period of time. And maybe wind that back down at some point. But just worth looking at.
Yeah, no,
I'd like to see the different costs.
I agree.
Yeah, we did that with the Great Day of Service. When we had all the plants at the parks, we had security all night.
Yeah.
And that was rather expensive at the three different parks to do that. So
That was a guard at each park.
Yeah.
I'm talking about one guard moving between all 3 parks, just sort of rotating constantly, moving around.
we can get a price on that.
Okay.
That's what we had before, correct? So, and that's when
No,
we didn't have the
We had someone
fence.
who was there 3 times a night.
Right.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. They moved around.
Like
No,
he's
they-
talking about.
They would
All
be
night.
there 3 times a night, but they would mix that into other duties.
Yeah.
I'm talking about putting someone on that duty all night, and that's all they would do, move between the different
Every
parks.
hour they could be,
Spend an hour at one park, spend a couple hours at the next, spend a couple hours at the one, and move to wherever they need to be where we're seeing more issues.
I don't know if that's gonna be cost effective.
I don't know, that's the question.
we're asking.
Yeah, I see, okay. Well, what about the fence then? Because the fence is ugly. I drive all over California. I don't see fences around parks. It doesn't look good. It's aesthetically ugly. And it doesn't stop the kids from jumping the fence. I mean, it's just, that would have never stopped me when I was young. I'd jump any fence, I didn't care.
Okay.
I thought it was more fun. Go ahead, Bob. You have something?
I really don't want the fence up around the park. It sends sort of a message to what kind of place you are. I think we need to be a better place. So if it takes private patrols to do it, we'll do it. If it takes community involvement and with the neighbors, we need to do it. The fence, I think, should go down.
I agree, actually, with Bob, and we hear you, we understand, and we heard you, Monty, for 9 minutes. We understand. Now, we have these, I also think it's a false sense, though. Yeah, the gate up at SAC, it's a false sense of security, because you just saw, the fence has been up for 3 years, and there were still calls. So I think, on the other hand, it's not as safe as they were maybe thinking, but having the security, we'll look into that, having the cameras, and
maybe some censored lighting.
lighting, and we come back. This is not the decision to make for, eternity. We come back and these reports and these lawns and everything coming back telling us that we do have more issues, then we can certainly come back and put back on the agenda and revisit it.
I think my question would be, do we, hastily just take the fence down now, or do we wait until we get a few of these things in place? And I think we ought to wait until we get a few things in place. I don't want it to come down tomorrow and not have the security, not have a camera system, not have the ability to monitor a little bit better before then. I think we need to take a bit of a measured approach to this. I would agree that it doesn't look great. It's not what I want to see, if I had a park in my neighborhood. I mean, I'm in a neighborhood where I don't have anything like that. So my closest park is the high school, and there's a lot of fencing around the high school, but that's the school district's prerogative. I was in Moreno Valley yesterday, and they have a big community facilities park that's right on one of the main streets, and it is fenced. There are places that do it. That's, again, up against the school, though, so I think you see it a little bit more when you're around schools. It was also all AstroTurf, which I thought was very interesting. For a very large facility, it was 2 or 3 soccer fields all tagged together in Moreno Valley, right on the main drag there by City Hall, and all AstroTurf. So they found some money. I'm interested in the next item. So the long and the short of it, I don't like the fence, I don't want it there. But I don't want to rip it down until we've got some of these other things in place, until we all feel comfortable that at least some of the concerns have been alleviated. And if we can do that through private security, great. If we need to invest in that quite heavily, I think we've got enough money right now in Measure Z where we could do that and put that out there. And it may not be forever, but until we get our police force back up for sure. So.
Well, it's like you said, Riverside's doing it, and they've gone to that model, and we've always talked about that model before and different things with private security in the city.
But then if you're leaving the fence up right now, then you're saying, but yet we're opening it, do we need someone to open and close the parks right now?
Yeah, we're still going to have
And that security guard can do that too.
Same person.
Yeah.
I think until we get the security guard in place, until we've gotten a couple of reports back that it's working, and until we got a few of these things in place, I just don't want to rip it down right away. But I think at some point it definitely needs to come down.
Well, it needs to come down when we have them in place to monitor the parks. Sure. After that,
if we have the security guard
as ugly as it can get.
It's going to be in place.
It's a disgraceful fence to begin with.
I would think at least some security cameras as well before we take the fence down, so we have a better idea what's going on in the park.
Do you have a time frame then on when the security cameras are going to be?
March, April.
Okay.
But bringing back security fee for that contract in March. I'm sorry. Bringing back the contract for the security service, so that would be March. And the analysis for the cameras would be in March.
Okay.
March 12th. Installation, contract for security would happen the next day after the approval. The cameras, within a week or so. But we can still have the daily opening of the gates.
Because we'll have the security guard.
Well, yeah.
So then April 12th, if we have everything in by April 12th, which is the grand opening, then the fence goes down.
Now, that would be a goal, I would think.
Yeah.
So we don't have an indefinite future out there where it could stay up forever because we don't think we looked at it.
Well, it's an ugly fence, period.
It's not attractive at all.
It's not attractive, it
horrible to have it
doesn't
there.
make the community look any better, but I do agree with Ben completely to leave it up until we have our security in place. Whatever devices we're going to use, cameras, lights, security patrol officer in place. Open and close the gates daily until then, and then take that fence down. If it turns into a brouhaha, then we look at maybe an aesthetically nice looking fence that fits the area. But I think for right now, we need to get the gates open, get security in place, and get the fence down.
ASAP, gang.
We
Yeah,
all in agreement?
Yeah.
We got direction?
Take my truck out there.
All right.
I got a chain.